This is a warning from the Department of Existential Risks. Our analyses have identified a pattern in your life that points to a dangerous psychological development. What you'll experience in the next minutes was designed to free you from a trap whose existence you never noticed. In this video, I will not only show you how Jung's concept of the anima and shadow governs your interactions with women, but also how you can use this knowledge to achieve genuine connection and avoid psychological devastation. You will rise from this video as a different man. What Jung discovered almost a century ago is more disturbingly relevant today than ever before. In an age of dating apps, social media, and increasingly confused gender dynamics, his insights into the female shadow cut through the noise with surgical precision. Most men believe that understanding women is simply about communication and emotional intelligence. But Jung recognized a disturbing truth. There exists in some women a dark aspect that operates beyond conscious awareness, both yours and hers. Every time you feel inexplicably drawn to a woman who treats you poorly, you're activating Jung's concept of the anima projection. You don't notice it, but you're being guided by forces deeper than conscious choice. The female shadow represents the repressed, unacknowledged aspects of the feminine psyche. It's not misogyny to acknowledge this reality. It's psychological awareness. Jung understood that both men and women contain light and darkness, consciousness and unconsciousness. Some women, not all, but some, have integrated their shadow aspects so poorly that they become unconscious vehicles for psychological destruction. The woman herself may have no awareness of the pattern she perpetuates. This is not about blame. This is about seeing clearly. The woman operating from her unintegrated shadow isn't evil. She's unconscious. The man drawn to her shadow is equally unconscious. Stop now, take a pen, and write down the 3 most painful relationship experiences you've had with women. As you write, ask yourself, what pattern connects these experiences? You'll begin to see the outline of your own anima projection. Your attraction patterns are not random. They follow a psychological script written long before you had conscious choice. Jung called this the anima, the unconscious feminine image carried within every man that determines which women he finds magnetically attractive. When your anima is projected onto a woman who embodies your unhealed wounds, you create the perfect conditions for psychological devastation. You literally cannot see her clearly. You see only the projection of your inner feminine. Close your eyes. Imagine the woman who has caused you the most pain standing before you. Can you see beyond your projection to the actual human being? Can you recognize where your unconscious begins and her actual personality ends? This is not a thought exercise. This is the beginning of psychological freedom. The dark feminine that Jung identified exists as a pattern, not as an inherent quality of women. Some women have integrated this energy consciously and use it creatively. Others remain unconscious vessels for destructive patterns that repeat across generations. What makes this pattern so dangerous is its invisibility to both participants. The woman acting from her unintegrated shadow believes she is making conscious choices. The man responding to her shadow believes he is following authentic attraction. The woman operating from shadow may display a cluster of behaviors: sudden withdrawal of affection, inexplicable cruelty followed by warmth, emotional manipulations that leave you questioning your sanity, and a peculiar capacity to target your deepest insecurities with unerring accuracy. Stand up now, find a mirror, look deeply into your own eyes, and say aloud, "I see beyond the projection to reality." Feel the resistance. That resistance is your unconscious fighting to maintain the projection. Say it again, louder. Feel how the resistance begins to yield. Your unconscious has been programmed to respond to specific shadow qualities in women. This programming did not happen by accident. It was installed through your earliest experiences with female figures, cultural conditioning, and unresolved psychological wounds. The woman who activates your deepest wounds isn't doing so consciously. She's responding to the invitation of your projection. You are, in a very real sense, co-creating this dance of shadow and light. Modern psychology has validated Jung's insights through attachment theory. Your attraction patterns directly reflect your attachment wounds. The woman who triggers your abandonment fears isn't the cause of those fears. She's the mirror reflecting them back to you. These mechanisms weren't randomly developed. They were installed to keep you psychologically trapped in repetitive patterns. Jung understood that the anima projection serves a purpose: to bring unconscious material into consciousness through painful relationship experiences. But here is the transformative truth that Jung discovered and that can liberate you. The dark feminine is not something to be feared or avoided, but integrated and understood. This means not only that some women operate from unconscious shadow patterns, but also that recognizing this fact is the first step toward genuine relationship. What has disturbed you in this video is not the horror, it's the recognition. The discomfort you feel is the signal that something true has been touched in your psyche. Jung called this shadow recognition, the uncomfortable moment when we see what we've been avoiding. The path forward isn't to fear women or become cynical. It's to develop what Jung called shadow consciousness, the ability to see clearly both your projections and the reality of the person before you. From this moment forward, you will begin a 5-minute evening ritual. Note 3 moments during your day when you felt unusually strong attraction or aversion to a woman. Write down what you actually felt, not what you think you should have felt. These notes are your map out of the labyrinth. Each morning, before falling into your usual routine, you will face what you've been avoiding, just for 60 seconds. Think about your pattern of attraction to women who embody your wounds. Feel the discomfort. Count backward aloud from 60. At 0, you'll realize you're still alive. The fear was an illusion. The next time you feel that magnetic pull toward a woman who displays red flags, pause and say aloud, "I see the pattern, but I am not bound by it." Then consciously choose a different response. Your unconscious hates conscious rebellion against its programming. Identify one truth about your attraction patterns that you've been hiding from yourself. Today you will acknowledge it to one person you trust. Start with something small but real. Watch how the mask begins to crumble, revealing your authentic self beneath. Every day, you will question one assumption about women that you take for granted. Why are you attracted to this specific quality? Why do you avoid women who display that specific trait? Why do you repeat the same relationship patterns? The answers will disturb you and free you. Once per week, you will consciously approach an interaction with a woman differently than your pattern dictates. A conversation you would normally avoid. A boundary you would typically not set. An honest expression you would usually suppress. Each act of conscious choice weakens the programming. What Jung discovered about the dark feminine is not a weapon to use against women. It's a mirror to hold up to yourself. The woman who activates your wounds is not your enemy. She's the unconscious catalyst for your potential growth. The most disturbing truth is this: your attraction to women operating from shadow is not random bad luck. It's a precise psychological mechanism designed to bring your unconscious material into awareness. You are being drawn exactly where your healing needs to occur. What you're now experiencing is a profound cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable space between your programmed responses and emerging awareness. This discomfort is the birth pain of consciousness. Embrace it. Jung understood that the dark feminine isn't something outside of you. It's a part of your own psyche projected outward. The women who embody these qualities are simply meeting you at the level of your unconscious invitation. The anima, your inner feminine, can either lead you to psychological wholeness or to repetitive destruction. When unexamined, it draws you magnetically to women who will replay your original wounds with perfect precision. This is the pattern Jung identified. The more unconscious your relationship to your inner feminine, the more you will be drawn to women who embody its most problematic aspects. You will call this chemistry or attraction, not recognizing it as psychological compulsion. When you meet a woman who perfectly triggers your wounds, your body responds before your mind can intervene. Your palms sweat, your heart races, your thinking narrows. You mistake this response for love or passion when it's actually recognition of a familiar pattern. The physical reaction you experience is your body's memory of original wounds being activated. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between the woman before you and the original feminine figures who created the template for your attraction. Many men remain trapped in this cycle their entire lives, moving from one painful relationship to another, never understanding that they are being guided by an internal image rather than responding to the actual woman before them. Now, take a deep breath, place your hand on your chest, feel your heartbeat. This is your body speaking to you. Your fastest path to awareness is through this physical intelligence that Jung called the somatic unconscious. The most dangerous aspect of the female shadow is not its existence, but your blindness to it. When you cannot see the pattern, you remain helplessly caught in its repetitive cycle. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Some women have mastered the art of shadow manipulation unconsciously. They know exactly which buttons to push, which insecurities to target, which hopes to raise before dashing them, not from conscious malice, but from their own unhealed wounds seeking expression. These women are drawn to you precisely because you offer the perfect canvas for their unconscious patterns. Your wounds and theirs fit together like lock and key, creating a powerful psychological bind that masquerades as passionate connection. The woman operating from unintegrated shadow will display a predictable pattern. Initial idealization where you feel perfectly understood, followed by subtle devaluation where you increasingly feel inadequate, culminating in discarding when you no longer serve her unconscious needs. This cycle is not personal, it's archetypal. It is played out countless times across human history. Jung recognized it as the negative mother complex, externalized in adult relationships. Both participants are caught in unconscious repetition. Write down right now the moment when your most painful relationship shifted from idealization to devaluation. What changed? What did you feel in your body? This precise moment contains the key to your pattern. You've been operating under the illusion that with enough love, understanding, or patience, you could heal the wounded feminine before you. Jung would call this the savior complex, another manifestation of unconscious pattern rather than authentic choice. The brutal truth is that no amount of your sacrifice can heal another person's unintegrated shadow. That journey is theirs alone. Your attempts to rescue them only deepen your entanglement in unconscious pattern. This realization isn't meant to harden you against women, but to free you from the psychological trap of projection. When you see clearly, you can engage authentically with the actual person rather than the projection. The woman who has integrated her shadow consciously possesses remarkable depth, authenticity, and power. She doesn't hide her darkness. She has transformed it into wisdom. Learning to recognize this integrated feminine is crucial to breaking your pattern. Jung observed that women with integrated shadows display a particular quality. They neither perform perfection nor act from uncontrolled darkness. They acknowledge their full spectrum of being and take responsibility for their impact on others. Tomorrow, when you encounter women, practice this simple awareness exercise. Ask yourself, am I seeing the actual person or my projection? Notice how often your attraction is based on what she represents in your unconscious rather than who she actually is. The most powerful question you can ask when feeling intense attraction is, what wound in me is being activated right now? This doesn't invalidate your attraction, but it places it in the context of your psychological journey. At the deepest level, your attraction to women operating from shadow is not a mistake, but an opportunity. Jung called this the way through the shadow, the painful but necessary journey towards psychological wholeness. What feels like torment in these relationships is actually your psyche's attempt to heal itself. The unconscious draws you precisely to the experiences that can bring your wounds to consciousness, if only you will see them clearly. The woman who triggers your deepest wounds is paradoxically offering you the gift of potential awakening, not through the relationship succeeding, but often through its painful collapse, revealing the pattern that needs healing. Now perform this grounding exercise. Place both feet firmly on the floor. Feel the solid earth supporting you. This physical grounding helps interrupt the floating, disembodied quality of projection that occurs when meeting a woman who activates your anima. Jung understood that integration happens through conscious suffering, not avoidance. You must be willing to feel the pain of recognizing your projections and taking them back into yourself rather than casting them onto women. The shadow work Jung prescribed isn't about perfection, It's about awareness. You will still feel attraction to problematic patterns, but with consciousness, you gain the precious moment of choice before automatic response. Each time you consciously choose not to follow your programmed pattern with women, you strengthen what Jung called the transcendent function, your mind's ability to create new psychological pathways beyond unconscious compulsion. This daily practice is essential. Before interacting with any woman who provokes strong feelings, pause and silently ask, what am I not seeing about her? What am I not seeing about myself? This creates the space for consciousness to enter. Remember, the goal isn't to demonize women with unintegrated shadows. They too are caught in unconscious patterns seeking resolution. Your responsibility is solely to your own awareness, not to fixing or changing them. The transformed relationship with the feminine that Jung envisioned wasn't based on control or avoidance, but on conscious engagement. When you see clearly, you can choose authentically rather than react compulsively. You must develop what Jung called active imagination, the ability to dialogue with your inner feminine rather than projecting it outward. Ask your anima directly, what are you seeking through these painful relationships? The answer may disturb you, but it will also free you. Often, these destructive patterns are attempts to resolve childhood wounds by recreating them with the unconscious hope of a different outcome. This never works. True healing comes not from finding the perfect woman, but from integrating your own inner feminine, acknowledging the full spectrum of emotions, intuition, and relatedness within yourself, rather than seeking it exclusively from women. When you've begun this integration, you'll notice a profound shift. You'll be attracted to different women. Your body will respond to psychological wholeness rather than to the perfect match for your wounds. This transformation isn't immediate. It's a journey. There will be setbacks, moments when old patterns reassert themselves. Jung called this regression in service of transcendence, temporary steps backward that ultimately serve your growth. What you've learned today cannot be unlearned. You've seen behind the curtain of your unconscious patterns with women. This awareness will create uncomfortable friction with your old behaviors, a necessary discomfort for growth. Tonight, as you fall asleep, ask your unconscious to show you the truth about your relationship to the feminine. Pay attention to your dreams. Jung considered dreams the direct communication from the unconscious, offering guidance beyond your conscious understanding. You will start noticing the patterns we've discussed everywhere, in your relationships, in cultural narratives, in the stories of friends. This isn't paranoia, it's growing awareness of archetypal patterns that were always there, but previously invisible to you. The ultimate promise of Jung psychology is this. By integrating your relationship with the feminine shadow, you not only free yourself from destructive patterns, but become capable of genuine love, seeing and being seen beyond projection. This video ends now, but what it has triggered in you is just beginning. You have a choice. You can pretend you haven't heard these truths and return to your programmed patterns with women. Or you can take the first conscious step toward freedom. Today, not tomorrow, today. Make one conscious choice that interrupts your pattern. Have one honest conversation. Set one clear boundary. See one projection clearly and take it back. This single act of consciousness is the beginning of your liberation from the dark feminine pattern that has controlled your relationships. The signal has been sent. How will you respond?